Welcome to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Mark Fisher from the Wolf Home Products Organization. Very happy to have you on the show, Mark, here today. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Very good. Happy to be here in beautiful, snowy Denver this morning.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit of snow there, eh?
Well, we sure are. It's beautiful outside.
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking out our window now, too. We've got a nice, serene, Christmas-like little dusting following here as well, which probably doesn't surprise you. Now, for most of the people that are watching the show or listening to the show, right now our audience is primarily made up of people off of Instagram that are probably familiar with you already. But for those who aren't or are listening down the road or join this podcast that aren't coming from Instagram, why don't we start with a little bit about who you are, how you got into the industry that you're in, and just give a bit of understanding about Mark Fisher.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, first of all, again, thanks for having me. I live in Denver, Colorado. I live here with my beautiful, supportive wife of 21 years, and my son, who is 19 years old, going to film school, wants to be a writer. And also, luckily for us, a bit of a tech guy helped us out with our little technical difficulties. I'm not sure he was thrilled that I was waking him up, but he was happy to help anyway, so that's great.
We've run into a few of those this morning. You could have used him about 20 minutes ago as well.
Right.
Yeah. I think you should bring it up. I think we should mention it. So the inside joke is we did 26 minutes of recording already this morning with Mark, and then stopped him, let him know that we had forgot to start recording. And so we're going to take it from the top. Some of the answers might be shorter than you want, but that's because our heart was poured into the 4 questions the first time we did the 4 questions. So
now you've got to make this double interesting, Mark.
I know, big pressure, right? Background wise, I'm originally an upstate New Yorker. And if you're familiar with New York at all, if you're in Manhattan and you say upstate, they think you're talking about Albany, but this is the true upstate New York, right on the Canadian border of Ontario. Raised on a large dairy farm, still in operation. My family's still there. Actually, every time I get my Social Security statement, I'm reminded that started contributing at the age of 8. So I've started working at a young age.
Your parents would be arrested for that nowadays.
I guess a lot of those child labor laws don't apply if you're a child. But great upbringing nonetheless. It's actually funny. We didn't bring it up the first time, so it's a cool story. Is that part of my pay as a child, and I would go to do chores early in the morning. We hit 4 a.m. and then go to school, and then I get dropped back off with the bus and do chores after work, or after school rather. But part of my pay was to get a calf every year, and calves, like rabbits, beget more calves, right? And eventually become calves. So when it came time for college, I was actually able to sell my small herd and pay for college. And so it's a super cool thing, right? But as crazy as it sounds, always a joke. I went to a music school in upstate New York to study voice, and thought I was going to be an opera singer. So how far we come to, now I'm schlepping plastic, right?
Well, this makes sense when you commented on our video of Rock Band and you're like, yeah, I'll be the singer next time I'm around. So
absolutely. Yes.
The sad part of this is the 20 minutes we had tried to record and forgot to hit record was just 18 minutes of Mark singing opera. So unfortunately, that's going to be buried in the archives now.
Well, thank heaven for small favors, right?
Yeah.
So during college in the summers, I worked for a large pole barn builder, a lot of dairy barns and horse barns and that sort of stuff. And that's really where I kind of got the splinter, if you will, and realized my love of the construction industry. After college, followed my wife. I'm sure that's a story in many successful men's. A wife has fallen a woman, right? But moved with her to the more New York area outside of Connecticut, and worked for a couple of general remodelers. Eventually opened my own very small business. I was, if anybody's ever heard my Wolf Pro presentations or me speak, I often ridicule and this guy called Chuck in a Truck, right? He's not the professional guy, not the guy we want as a Wolf Pro, but I was definitely Chuck in a truck and doing taking the small jobs and working out of a beat up pickup truck. And eventually got lucked out and remodeled a gentleman's home who was the president of a two-step distributor. And at the time, right, the harder you work, the longer the hours, the more money you make. So I was out there upsetting his neighbors in the morning because I was banging the hammer too early and out there with the halogen at night. And I guess that impressed him, and didn't matter that I didn't have any sales experience, and I never really even considered going into sales. But he offered me a job, and which I accepted. Had a new little guy just arrived, and stability made sense for me. And so,
seems like one of those things when you can't teach work ethic, right? So like a guy watches you, you're working hard. He can teach you sales. That's easy, right? But the actual work ethic itself is like, you can't teach that. People either have it or they don't, right? So.
Yeah, I agree with you. So actually for that distributor, I worked as they called it a builder architect rep. A little bit of it was for DuPont Tyvek house rep. I got some exposure to moisture management, which is a cool thing. And then the other half, they were let's call them brand T, or the big T. They were a brand T distributor for Connecticut. And so I was charged with calling on builders and architects to expose them to this kind of, at the time, pretty new category. It was just after it was no longer mobile oil, even. A couple of colors, no grain, no capstock. Didn't matter which color you picked, just expose it to the sun for 6 months and it all looked the same anyways. But some pretty cool stuff at the time. And I guess did well enough that they thought me worthy for a promotion and moved me to the Southeast with a sales position covering the Carolinas. And primarily actually started a little bit of PVC decking, but primarily PVC trim. And PVC was kind of my pony. People sold lots of products as a distributor, but when people thought of Mark Fisher, they thought of the plastic guy, and kind of grew my reputation around that, and did that for about 10 years. And then I think because of that passion and success with PVC, Wolf found me in about somewhere in 2009, and it's been a Wolf story since.
So this will be your 10-year anniversary then, I guess, eh?
It will, yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
You'll have a picture up on the wall in head office there, right?
Yeah, boy, we've got some, I think Bob Lett's been there 35, 36 years. We've got some long tenured, seasoned, and just some rock stars at Wolf. Great company to work for.
So 10 years is a long time, but that's only 4% of the company's history. They just recently celebrated their 175th birthday. Wolf Home Products did. How was that coming into a company that's got that much history behind it and that much kind of corporate culture already built up, and they bring in this new guy? How was it kind of fitting in, and what's your kind of role there?
So I guess just to understand Wolf a little bit, I think as far as a manufacturer goes, we're very unique in our core market, if you will. It's kind of a 13-state East Coast footprint with our building products segment, trim, deck, rail, that sort of stuff. We are still a true two-step distributor. Our customer base is the retail lumberyard, delivering on our own curtain side trucks. Tom Wolf was 6th generation owner, kind of had a vision of, well, it's fun to sell. It's more fun to sell and make money, right? And it's really, Wolf's always been really good about understanding that we need the dealer partner, we need the distributor partner, but the kind of the core, the thing that really drives change is getting to the end user, getting to that builder, right? And so all along our history, or at least our recent history, we've kind of had a focus on calling on the builder. And so in, I guess really 2010, we made this kind of pivotal change towards, all these Wolf branded products, Wolf Serenity being my pony. So after that, it's called, I guess, a vetting period, if you will, from 2010 to basically 2014. Myself and I mentioned Bob Lett, we put together a plan, took it to Wolf that, hey, listen, we're having success. We've got this awesome product. This thing's really starting to get some traction for us here on the East Coast. Let's take this thing national or international, right? And jokingly, internally, we were called Team Conestoga, which is, if you're familiar with a Conestoga, it's kind of the covered wagon that was taken west. And so it's been a fun, they gave us the rope to hang ourselves with. I think there was maybe some folks at Wolf that thought, man, maybe Bob and Mark aren't long to this world. Are they going to be able to do this thing? And so really in 2014, he and I started with 0 sales, 0 customers. And now here we are, just started 2019, and we have homeowners enjoying their Wolf Deck in an additional 15 states and 3 provinces, and actively seeking the right partners to grow into even more. Technically, my title is sales. You could call me market development, all kinds of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, people should be proud of being salespeople, and it's lots of titles and lots of companies, but ultimately we're all in sales.
Yeah, that's right. And just being called a salesperson is probably one of the nicer things people could call you as a salesperson. Yeah, there's worse names out there.
It doesn't make my top 5 as bad things have been called. So
just don't call me late for dinner, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So you guys have seen some pretty phenomenal success and expansion and growth in the time from, like you said, 2014 when this all kind of started to happen to now. But the market is still clearly, as far as the low maintenance decking market, is still very clearly dominated by kind of 3 big parties, being Trex, the AZEK/TimberTech Group, and Fibron are kind of the big 3 out there that have really kind of scooped up a lot of the market share out there. What's it like to work for an up and coming brand that's, you're not just walking in and trying to sell PVC decking, people know what that is now, but you're trying to take the share away from the other big 3. What's that like to be pushing that challenger brand into the market?
Yeah, I love that word, challenger. It's sometimes fun to be the underdog. We definitely have some markets in the Pacific Northwest. Again, some core markets in the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast where we're taking some lunch money. We're probably beyond the challenger brand, but you're absolutely right. In a more North America sense that I'll oftentimes meet with new builders and they've never heard of Wolf, which is exciting for me. It's a opportunity to expose them to something new. Again, we mentioned, Wolf's been around since 1843, so that definitely helps when people say, "Oh, I never heard of Wolf." We're maybe the new guy in that market, but we're certainly not a new company, and been around, have a lot of staying power.
I think that for sure helps Wolf, right? When if you come on the scene and you're a 10-year-old company versus a 175-year-old company, there's some immediate trust. Oh, okay, well, these guys have been around forever, so probably what they're doing works. So then, whatever it is that you're pitching isn't written off as fast, right?
There's been so many. This is an industry that's had a lot of fly-by night operations, right? Some products that have come and gone. They've had very short staying power, and it's not an expensive endeavor to get into if you decide you're going to start selling a brand of decking. So there is a lot of risk involved for people, and the fact that you guys can back that up with that 175 years. And listen, us as a company, Wolf is going nowhere. We've been around for 175 years. We'll be here for 175 more. So it really helps to mitigate that risk that people may see in a product they haven't heard of before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an important part of the story too, is that, we didn't immediately launch and try to take it national. We made sure that it worked. And our East Coast kind of core market, longtime partners, before we decided to take it, more global.
Yeah, that's smart, because there's certainly such thing as spreading yourselves too thin, especially when initially it sounds like it was a bit of a 2-man operation, right? So you got to make sure that works in a small test bed before you try to go spread yourselves too thin everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, with some great products out there. I think if the more anybody knows me, I'm a high road guy. There's great brands, the big three, that they're making great products, great people that work there. But you go into a big deck market. You go into the typical retailer or lumberyard, and you're going to see the same 3 displays over and over and over and over again, right? So those guys, when you try to appeal to a new partner from a retail perspective, Wolf gives them the opportunity to fight over something other than pennies. Right, you can buy any of these big winter buy programs, and you can buy some margin if you have the dollars to do so. But something to offer something different that not everybody's offering is another great way to separate yourself as a business and to potentially have a higher margin story to talk about around that. And it's really the same thing. I spend a ton of time calling on contractors. I bet. If you slice my year, I bet probably 50% of my time is talking to guys in the field. There's the guys that move it, and you get a contractor, right? So you get maybe a homeowner gets 3 bids or 3 quotes, and if all 3 of those guys have the same, whether it's brand A or brand T or what have you on that quote, then they've got to kind of compete with each other. Over design and all those other aspects, but certainly price is included in that as well, right? And then, but if you get that one guy, so you get those 3 quotes, and one of those 3 quotes has Wolf decking on there, it's going to beg the question from the homeowner to the builder: hey, the other 2 guys were quoting this. Why do you have Wolf on there instead? And it gives them the opportunity to talk about why they're different and make it a whole lot less about you're $1,000 more than chucking a truck, right? And really talk about, this is what I use. This is why I choose Wolf, and win the job and earn that extra $1,000 that you're worth because you do better work.
Yeah. And you're probably having those same conversations when you walk into a dealer, for example, that's more familiar with the big 3 and isn't as familiar with Wolf. What kind of pushback do you get from them? What are the struggles they have to kind of wrap their head around this brand of decking that everybody walks in and claims that they've got the best decking, right? So how do you actually get past that pushback to get them to take a chance?
Yeah, it's funny. The response is often, "Oh, there's so many brands." Right. And my quick turnaround is to show them in their showroom. Well, yeah, there's all these brands, but you have these same 3 displays that the guy up the street and the guy down across the block, there may be all these brands, but you're selling the same stuff and fighting over those pennies. So, if it's, when I'm talking to a new customer, whether it's a retailer or a distributor, if it's a guy that, if it's a guy that wants to pick up the phone and take orders for something that guys are already using, probably not my guy, and vice versa, right? Wolf may not be their go-to. But if they're frustrated with dwindling margins and continuing to compete, service is this thing that it's a super intangible thing that, we have better service, right? But how do you prove that? You got to have the business to prove that.
Yeah. It's easy to say it, right?
Yeah. So, here's this, very low, in comparatively commitment that we're asking for. And it's really just a commitment to sell, not so much, talking about inventory typically. Let us hold a contractor event. Let us talk to your customers. Let us show them something different. Let's set up this network of these select contractors, these Wolf Pros, these invite only. Got to have the pass to be a Wolf Pro, right? And let us show you another way. And ultimately that work that goes into that, because it is work, right? It's work on behalf of Wolf. It's also work on behalf of that dealer or that distributor. But we love the strategy of elbow room, and where we do have 2-step distributors buying from us, we go to market with a sole distributor. And the reason we do that is so that we do all the work. And when it starts to gel, we all reap the rewards. And for the right partner, for the right retailer, that makes sense. And we've certainly proven it in many markets, and excited to prove it in more where we've done that work. And now those partners are, if it's a Wolf deck, then they know it's coming back to them. And man, that's it's fun to do the work, and it's more fun to get paid for doing it.
All of the major brands, I would say yourselves included, have really gotten on board with these loyalty programs. And you've mentioned it a couple times here, your Wolf Pro program. Yours is a very attractive program for contractors to get signed up with. It's not hard to get signed up with. It's a fairly easy process to get into. You've had some changes recently. You're rolling out an app. There's some stuff on the forefront for you guys. Tell us a little bit about the Wolf Pro program and the changes that you guys are kind of following out here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is Wolf Pro is probably our biggest market driver. It's been integral to the Wolf brand really since day one. Whole concept, again, this guy that I pick on, this chuck in a truck, right, is that not only do retailers and distributors need that elbow room, that advantage, but in many markets, the builder needs an advantage over his competition, over that chuck in a truck guy, right? So right from day one, well, Wolf as a distributor, we'd always had this thing, we called it the perfect service guarantee. And that was to do what the customer thinks is fair and make things right and make them right quick, right? Figure out, how to fix the paperwork or the dollars and stuff after, but really quick, just fix the problem and make it right. So we thought, well, hey, we're doing this anyways. Let's put this into writing. And so that was, we were really one of the pioneers in having a labor warranty. And so that what the Wolf Pro program is in part an in earnest training program, right? We can all learn. I've had seasoned builders in trainings that you'll see a little light bulb off. Even it's a little simple thing that they pick up that I've learned from other contractors. But the big part of that Wolf Pro is that 5-year labor warranty, and that's intended to be that advantage over chucking a truck, right? So the homeowner says, "Hey, you're $1,000 higher than chucking a truck. Why should I use you?" We want that Wolf Pro to be able to turn around and say, "Well, if you use me and you use Wolf Decking, not only you get this lifetime material warranty, 25-year fade and stain, but you also get this 5-year labor warranty." And that's been a real winner for a lot of the pros, right? So the new thing, and I think actually today maybe the official launch is an app. That it's going to be a smartphone app, again exclusive for the Wolf Pros. That is a rewards program. Rewards programs, everybody's kind of got their versions of them, right? But they can be a real hassle, right? Especially in the heat of the season, who's got time to save receipts? And, you go back to your retailer and say, "Hey, can I have my receipts from, the last 3 months or whatever," that kind of thing to show the manufacturer. So what this is going to be is a smartphone app, again, just for the Wolf Pros. They will have to use a browser to sign up for the program initially, just that first login type of thing. And then we'll set them up so that they can do a free download from the App Store of the Wolf app. And from that app, they will be able to take a picture of their receipt from, say, the Ultimate Deck Shop, for instance. And that'll go direct to an audit system that'll check that thing within a couple of days, a week at the most. And when they sign up for the program, they're going to get sent this prepaid debit card. They're going to have a Wolf card in their wallet. And as they make purchases, and again, really short, quick, simple, take a picture through the app of their invoice, that card will then be loaded with funds. So I think it'd be fun. The great thing about the debit card that's kind of separate is that it's separate from your business account and your home account, right? So if you have an anniversary coming, and I don't know if for me, for instance, I have a joint bank account with a wife, right? So she may or may not. If I spend money on flowers, she knows they're coming because it's already came out of our account. So it gives you that little extra cash on the side to buy flowers, or maybe go to the Bass Pro Shop, right? If the wife doesn't know you have the funds either. But it's nothing that folks are going to get rich off of or retire on for sure. But it's a thank you, and it'll be a gated, tiered level type rewards program that be some great extra cash and a thank you. And hey, loyalty programs work. The amount that I travel, I don't always stay at a Hilton, or I don't always use Southwest, but boy, I like those points, right?
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it makes sense.
Money talks. For sure, the loyalty programs work. They just need to be, the reward needs to be enticing enough, and it needs to be not a whole bunch of work. That sounds like you guys are doing a good job of making sure. That's the only pushback contractors ever really have, is the amount of work that these programs can sometimes require. They've got enough paperwork and stuff that they already don't enjoy doing. And so to join these programs to get this little perk back, but it's going to cost you hours of paperwork to do, they just get turned off right away.
And I would say any amount of paperwork they hate doing, right? Like that's not, they like building decks or building garages or whatever it is that they're constructing. That's why they do what they do, right? It's not because they want to be an accountant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the fact that you guys have eliminated that and made it, brought it to 2019, and it's in an app and it's just snap a picture. Like that's how people operate nowadays. That's how they run
absolutely.
their banking. That's how they
I did something yesterday. I forget what I was trying to do, and I looked it up online and it didn't have an app, and I just closed out. Was like, okay, well, I'll come back to this later, So, and I like that it's a prepaid card. So on a like personal level, if I was a contractor, I would like that. I don't have to use it for t-shirts or trailer branding or whatever. I can use it for fuel, or like you said, you can use. It's just cash. Use it however you'd like. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna do some fun like click here to learn more type stuff, right? So if we let's say launch a new color, for instance, or something like that, we're gonna pay guys to educate themselves, right? So here's $25. All you do is listen to this thing for 3 minutes, kind of thing, or read through this, and here's an update from Wolf or something like that. So we're gonna have some fun with it, and I think we're actually so we'll have the browser-based version. Again, I think live. There was some testing going on yesterday, and then the app itself will actually be in February. We're waiting on. It has to go to Apple, and there's this whole process kind of thing once you have it set up. But we will be ready for deck season, and very excited.
So you're going to have a link in the app to this podcast, right? You're going to click right through to that. So.
And a $25 spiff if you listen to it.
There you go.
I like where your head's at. So speaking of the new way things are being done and how we operate in the sales world nowadays, social media has obviously become a gigantic part of our lives, both personal and business. What has that looked like for you guys? How are you kind of using social media? What benefits do you get out of it?
Yeah, it's changed so fast. It's amazing how this Wild West, this monster's kind of grown. I can remember a conversation even. Again, probably not more than 9 years ago with some folks in marketing that thought Facebook was going to be a fad, right? And how wrong we were, and we've kind of changed that tune.
I just signed up. It seems like it's going to take off, so I'm in.
might be a thing, right?
Yeah.
So I guess social media wise, first of all, just absolute mad respect for some of the icons that I think everybody in your cast has heard of, but boy, there's some guys really investing some time into this stuff. It's to do a good job takes a lot of time.
It is a big commitment for sure.
Yeah, can't imagine the time a guy like Jason or Mark King or certainly the Shane Chapman. Can't imagine the hours that you guys spend on content and responding to comments and questions and stuff like that.
A lot more than any of our wives want us to. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I made a note for myself. You'll see my you'll see my comment and or post flow be much heavier during the week when I'm alone in a hotel versus getting the glare after dinner from the bride about, hey, you're home. It's family time, not Instagram time.
Have you ever seen the movie This Is 40, Mark? Have you ever watched that movie?
I don't know that I have.
Rudd. If you have, like, if you need to watch it, it's a great movie, and it's like it's one of those kind of romantic comedy type movies, whatever. But it's extremely true to world. But the reason I bring that up is the main character Paul Rudd gets caught by his wife continuously going into the bathroom and hiding in there, but he's not actually going to the bathroom. He's just in there playing Scrabble on his iPad. And it's just his 10 minutes of peace, right? Just to get away from the kids or the wife or whatever, and just kind of have his moment. And I joke, but I bet you, I'll bet you a lot of those posts from Mark King and Jason Russell, they might be made in the bathroom. That's the time that they're spending. Anyway, so you mentioned those guys are great, right?
Yeah.
If you're wanting to follow along and see some amazing things that are being built out there and some creative ideas, Dr. Dex and Infinite Dex are two of the better ones to be following. Are there others that you would kind of throw into that? Do you kind of have your big top 3 or top 5?
Oh, definitely. And I always want there to be more. And, it's funny, even coming across the feed, will be new to Instagram, and I'll see these guys that are up and coming. Certainly if you're a Instagrammer and you're using Wolf, please tag me. Nothing would make me any happier than to repost with your permission and share your awesome work, and let's grow your following and grow the community. Right? It's a ton of fun. And those guys in particular that you talked about, those big guys, but there's more. I jokingly again call my title sales, but ultimately we're influencers is really what we're doing, right? And then those guys are doing a great job, as they're using brands. It definitely influences new users and stuff.
For sure, it does, yeah.
So I think speaking of Mark King, he did it on his interview. He did this great job of saying, "Hey, it's kind of like accepting an award, right? You got to be super careful. You no matter what you do, you're going to miss somebody that's awesome, right?" And I'll start right out with saying, "Hey, listen, I'm missing a ton of guys, but there's definitely some guys that I enjoy seeing on my feed." Windeck would be top of that list for sure. I think we're gonna coin a new term, Sexy Deck Friday, and I'll be careful using that term when, from a Wolf standpoint. But they've been building some beautiful decks for years.
They have some great projects, right? Like some of those are, they're eye catching for sure, right? They have some pretty amazing stuff that they put out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some that some guys might not know. One really cool one is a company called AccuDoc. I think it's Accu_Doc. And they're kind of not your typical deck builder. They build floating docks down in southern Florida, but these are not your average docks. They're just absolutely gorgeous. They actually got the docks for the Rio Olympics. It was a couple of truckloads of Wolf that went all the way to Rio, but just some amazing cool stuff. And they're really good about their content and just the beautiful settings behind where they post where their docks are floating and stuff. Certainly guys like Blue Chip, and they build some really cool stuff, number one, but you just get their personality through every post, right? And they're just having fun with it.
It's another Winnipeg group, right? Those guys are picking their product up from Windeck, and so
some cool Canada guys. MG up there, boy, he's way up there in the hinterland, right? That's a long ways north, but he's doing it by himself, I think, primarily. But he's doing some different stuff, right? Those cool little. I love the deck he did with some inlay patterns that turns out the homeowner had a hobby, I think like a knitting or something to that effect, that it was some pattern that the homeowner loved that MG put into an inlay in their deck. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a story behind that. I didn't realize that.
Was that silver teak one, Mark, that you're talking about?
It was, yeah. We'll say brand C with the with the inlay in the center. That kind of those two patterns. Can't remember embroidery or something or other that again was a hobby of the homeowner that. To look at to talk with him, you wouldn't pick up that side of his personality that he'd be able to listen to a homeowner to get that out of them to put something in it. But gives you more depth to him than you'd assume initially, which is really cool. Yeah,
maybe he's a cross stitcher, in his personal life.
Yeah, KGB.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. KGB.
I think there are a couple other guys, and we'll move on. But from a retailer / distributor side of thing, there's a young guy, kind of relatively new to Instagram, but I think doing a great job sharing his customers' work. James from Almar's got some, kind of gives you a little different perspective on the Ontario market. Some guys doing some different kind of work. Nobody that I've got exposure to yet as far as any access to get them Wolf, but I love the work of California Deck Pros, man. Those guys are just doing some amazing stuff out there.
Yeah, they've always been one of my favorite photos too. Yeah.
From a funny, not so much decking standpoint, if anybody doesn't follow Greaseball 1987, man, is that right? It's just every single one's entertaining, and man, he's got just a different sense of humor. And I've seen along the way people will comment, kind of thinking he's serious, and he'll hit them right back with as if he was serious about being a professional caulker or something like that.
Yeah, that's he's incredible. That's the best part of his account is when people do think he's serious, and then just to watch the exchange between them is phenomenal.
So, has anybody ever met him? Like I believe that he's been able to keep his identity under wraps this whole time, right?
Yeah. And not to my knowledge, I've certainly never met him. And the coolest part is there's no underlying, like, he didn't have a motive, there's no, like, he's just doing it because it's freaking hysterical and he's having fun with it, which is, it's not to promote a business or, all that kind of stuff. It's just,
he's at 58,500 followers. He's got a good following. His profile description of who he is, his name, Trevor Leahy, certified caulk installer working for $17.40 per hour, non-negotiable 2-hour minimum. Just that sets the tone for what you're about to see, right?
That's too funny. And the last one I had, that was the end of my list. Last one I had is the man, the myth, the legend, Bobby Parks. You got the body of work that guy amassed.
Isn't he unbelievable?
So he's pretty much a rookie in the social scene, but as far as an industry, that guy he's made an impact. Right?
And he just had his account hacked, right? Like he had finally built up some reasonable amount of followers, and then the whole thing gets hacked, shut down, and he starts over from scratch. Like I can't imagine what that would take for, say a guy like you, or even our account, like the shop here with 12 and a half. If that, you lose that following, back to work, right? More toilet time.
Yeah. And I think, again, if for those that don't know Bobby, right, he's probably the first guy that should be the first guy beating his chest, right, with the portfolio that he created before there was, again, there wasn't that many. Let's call him the professional deck builder, right? It was just a general remodeler was the guy that, he did kitchen and bath and some decks and that kind of stuff. But, but before it was cool in, that Atlanta market, Bobby was building some amazing outdoor structures, just really cool. And to have the foresight to do the photography and stuff that he's retained that portfolio. But he's just the most humble guy in the world. And I could only aspire to be, just as great, just a Southern gentleman like Bobby is. Speaking of the hack, I think I'm sure even, you may have even heard a cuss or two out of Bobby for that one to having to start over. But he's the kind of guy that would just pick himself up by the bootstraps and, okay, well, let's start over. Let's go,
And he was doing it in a market that wasn't known for having a ton of money either, right? So he's building these projects they're showstoppers, right? And he's doing it in a market. I don't know if we touched on it the second recording or if it was on the first recording, but we talked about, the yellow pine market down in Carolinas. And so not having a ton of money in that area, and Bobby was doing a very similar thing with his projects, right? So
he was out of Atlanta, I believe, right?
Yeah, he was out of Atlanta.
So he clearly made a mark in the industry. And like you said, probably one of the most humble guys you could ever meet. I met him the first time probably 3 years ago, I believe. And I met him at an event. He was doing his traveling roadshow thing. Met him at an event there, and I didn't see him again for another year later, but he remembered exactly who I was. Like I've met some people that meet me 5 times before they remember what my name is, right? But Bobby, he saw me, he came right up to me, he's like, "Hey Shane, how you doing?" It was like, I was surprised he would even remember who I was, right? He was standing in a room of 40 people and chatting with everybody.
And he did that every night for a year.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he does. He travels around and shakes hands. And then when you see him again, I had the same experience with him. I met him a year after Shane did. And when he saw me, the same thing, right? He was like, "Hey, Wade, how are you? It's good to see you again." Like, he's an amazing human. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. The Atlanta market, I mean, certainly there's money pockets, in every market, but it's kind of notoriously quote unquote cheap. Guys would do, new home construction. They'd do fiber cement with PVC trim, even 5/8 thick, right? Versus with the 3/4 on the front of the house. And then, rather than even making a full corner, they would butt a vinyl J channel against that kind of faux trim board at the corner. And then the other 3 sides would be vinyl siding, right? Any way you could get, cheap. And, heck, Bobby Parks was charging for estimates. Right. Just next level stuff. So great guy to follow. And as he continues to rebuild his portfolio there.
Yeah. So Instagram, like we said on many of these podcasts, has a great community of trades and helpful resources and whatnot. But another organization that provides that as well, a good community and a lot of events and whatnot, is NADRA, the North American Deck and Rail Association. Tell us a little bit more about NADRA, how that can help a contractor or a dealer or anybody in the industry, and kind of what value they can find out of that.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, huge fan of NADRA. I think it's community is good, right? Makes you feel like you're part of a segment to grow with. But I think NADRA is it's really like anything in life or business. You're going to get into it, you're going to get out of it what you put into it, right? So you got to get in, you got to participate. Things like Deck for a Soldier, man. We did a deck in Minnesota last year. Mark and Chris, CM Boost, the guys from ProDeck Supply, Pat Noonan, man, we just before Christmas, what for me was very cold, not so cold, I'm sure, for you guys, but out there just before Christmas, building a deck for a deserving group. Guys like Glenn Mathewson, right? So they're spending dollars on making sure that good codes get passed and stupid ones get stopped. And those aren't the things that you see immediate returns on as far as your investment into NADRA. But long term, they're looking out for everybody's business, right? You get a foolish code passes that cost you an extra $500 on every deck. Well, that's something we want to stop, right? And vice versa with good codes that help us as deck builders. Aside from that, to me, when I think about NADRA, I think about friends and networking, right? It's only January and I can't stinking wait for October. It's a deck builder party, right? Can't wait to go back to Expo, and that NADRA is certainly a huge part of that with the award ceremonies. Recognizing guys' craftsmanship and the hard work they put into stuff, and then just the camaraderie and the community of bunch of deck builders getting together and reuniting and having a party.
Some questions I want to pull out of that. The Deck for a Soldier. Whose idea was that, and how did you guys get involved in it?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. There's I believe the committee chairman, I'm going to make myself, I'm not sure of his business name. His first name is Bruce, I think Verblot. I think it's Verblot Construction, maybe in the New Jersey area. He and his wife are the committee chairman for that. And they've just done a great job seeking a deserving someone that's back that maybe they can't access their deck because they're in need of a ramp to do so, or just decrepit in general and falling down and not safe. To get in there, bunch of deck builders. A lot of times, even guys that compete, maybe not even complete fans of each other, right? Guys that are competing day in, day out in the same market, but they put all that to the side and they get in and they build a deck together to have do the right thing for a deserving family. It's just cool. And if you've never done it, I mean, you guys had something similar in your market. It wasn't a deck for a soldier, but a project for a deserving family, and you can't buy that experience. It's you get done with that thing and there's nothing better than giving of your time and your expertise, and from your pocketbook a bit as well to make that warm, fuzzy feeling.
It's definitely a very rewarding feeling that you can't get anywhere else, right? You've got to jump in and be a part of it to feel that.
When we were approached on that one, it was, I don't know, we were at some sort of mixer and the event organizer asked us if we were, Shane wasn't even there. He just asked me if we were interested. And it wasn't one of those phone calls I had to make, right? I just replied, absolutely, whatever you need, we're in, right? And so you're honored to be asked to be involved in something like that, right? So I feel like Wolf was maybe had a similar feeling, right? You get the opportunity to help give back a little bit to the community, and you want to, right? You're happy to have the opportunity.
Both from a time and again, kudos to Wolf that it was an investment, or a good bit of decking went on that project, and no questions asked. They were happy to help. So great company, Wolf.
And then second part about the NADRA, flip back to that. How many awards did Wolf, not Wolf, but how many decks were built with Wolf that won awards this year? You know what I'm trying to say? Does that make sense?
Enough that I may have lost count. It was, jokingly, I needed to sit at the end of the aisle, and boy, there was that's fun. And it's a little bit credit to Wolf, but it's really credit to the Wolf pros, right? I mean, just got some absolute craftsmen out there that I'm humbled pick. Primarily as well, a whole bunch of silver teak, right? That was the big one, but just got some true craftsmen, some true artisans that chose Wolf to be the product on their artistry, and just some amazing projects. But I think we got more than our fair share. It was good.
Yeah, you over-indexed on that, right? Compared to market share. you guys came up looking pretty on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a good thing they didn't have you going up there all the time. You wouldn't have been able to finish your drinks. You'd have been on stage another award up to the front again. Another award up to the front again. Right? So
yeah, the best part was one of the winners may or may not have been sitting next to a rep for another brand, and as he continued to bring plaque after plaque back that said Wolf, that other manufacturer's rep got to sit there with him in her lap. So it was it was perfect.
Hard for you to get out of the building on that night.
You mentioned silver teak. There was kind of the popular one through the award show there. It's always been a very popular color for us as well as black walnut has done very well for you guys, I think, as well. You've got a new color coming out for 2019, which is exciting. And onyx, what brought that about? And my understanding is that it's going to be kind of limited markets. What's behind that decision?
Yeah. You've you kind of got to be one of the cool kids, if you will, to be in a market that will have onyx. It's definitely my personal baby for 2019. I think we would see the air quotes here. We're calling it a limited release, limited market. So you actually won't be able to, at least short term, onyx won't be in our core market. It's not going to be in that 13 state East Coast footprint. It's actually born of let's call them brand C, if you will, had some challenges, a year ago as far as we're going out of business. Now we're back in business and all that stuff. But they had that color, I believe Ironwood was the name, correct? And I was watching all these posts. We talked about one with MG, but not just that, where people didn't even care that the grain didn't match, the sheen didn't match. They wanted that contrast, that starch black board against the not just silver teak, but any of the boards with that black variegation in them, just gave it a pop. And they wanted that contrast more than they cared about the board matching. And so I've actually a little more than a year ago now hit Wolf up. Let's crank out some prototype. Can we do this? And I wanted to launch a year ago, but kudos to Wolf that we have a process where pull the reins back a little bit on the sales guy. Let's test it. Let's make sure that let's make sure we have the same expansion contraction rate. We're getting similar temps, all that kind of stuff, similar color retention. So we've actually been testing that Onyx for a year, and now happy that we're really, really close in performance wise to the black walnut board. So I think that we have to appreciate that. If you've ever been to New England, you look at every house, it's gray, or gray, and then white house trim, right? So we appreciate that there's a huge percentage of Wolf sales that's in that plain gray, that seaside gray, or that sandcastle color, right? That's you kind of don't see those on Instagram. They're not the sexy variegated boards, but there may be folks at Wolf that may or may not think that I've lost my mind with a black deck board.
Yeah. So
what are you thinking, right?
Yeah, back to like circa 2014, and they've given you enough rope, right? It's like, okay, well, you want this color? Go ahead.
Prove it. The proof is in the pudding. Yeah. So I guess thankful for guys like you. I know you guys have some of that Onyx on your booking coming in for the spring, and luckily it's actually been very close to all of my customers that are outside our core footprint have also decided to adopt that Onyx, and super excited to see some photos on Instagram. I got to talk MG into going back to that deck and swapping out that brand C for Onyx on it, which I don't see him doing for sure. Exactly. But I think you're going to see some real cool pictures here, as spring and summer hits. And so Onyx, it's black, but I think in the right light, it's got a silver tint to it that will kind of lend towards the gray side of thing a bit too. Definitely, especially in a right light, some pretty dramatic variegation still, even though it's got that real dark core to it.
It should be a good one in our market for sure. Grays have always done well here, so it should be an interesting one.
Looking forward to seeing a full piece of it. We have a sample here, and it's a good one.
Awesome.
So anything else from Wolf in 2019 that people can kind of look forward to seeing?
Wolf, I think one of our biggest attributes, especially if you're looking at it as from a decking brand standpoint, is that people like stability. One of the common things I hear at dealers, we'll say brand T, brand A, brand big T, lots of changes in the decking offerings this year. But what those can be exciting things for the builder and the consumer, but those are not exciting things for the distributors. Those are horrible, right? You add two profiles with 32 colors, if you will, or something. You're talking about millions of dollars of inventory, right? And so it's daunting. Where do we, just from a space and or dollar perspective? So not to say that Wolf doesn't change, right? And Onyx is a great example where they're giving me a shot to add some stuff. But we don't want to change just to change. So you're going to see a lot of the same. We're not discontinuing a color in the Serenity collection. All our displays will be able to stay the same. The marketing materials, although we've got a cool new brochure for 2019, actually cover featuring that first place deck from the NADRA Awards. But all in all, not a lot of changes. We don't have to mix stuff up. Everybody can use what they've got, and I think that's a strength.
Yeah, So a lot of people don't realize you guys also have a composite line as well. Like your Serenity PVC line is probably your bread and butter, but you do have a composite line, and you've actually gone the other direction and trimmed back a few colors, streamlined that line up a little bit this year, correct?
We have, yeah. That's primarily East Coast, primarily an East Coast line for us. Actually, I do have a distributor though, a company called Amerhart, that covers the entire state of Michigan. Does do we call it our Perspective. So the PVC being the Serenity collection, and the Cap Composite being the Perspective. It's a high performance board. It's just a more crowded market, right? The cap composite in general, right? When you that talked early on about, dealers say, oh my gosh, not another, deck board. The composite side of things, especially as newcomers come along, it's a very crowded thing. So we have, a spade, right? So that the collection has two sides. One we called Captiva and one we called Terrace. The Captiva portion was a 5 colors, no variegation, nice grain texture to it, good looking board, but not the bells and whistles, a bit more price driven, if you will. And then the second side was this Terrace collection that was 5 variegated colors. Again, really nice looking board. But when I say to spade, it means that it was kind of a dog. It just wasn't. It wasn't getting it, and we want one of the things we want most for our customers is to be a good vendor. We want them to stock and sell something that's going to turn, something that people are coming in and asking for. And ultimately that variegated portion, those 5 colors, they weren't cutting it. So we're not afraid to, again, we don't like to change, but if we need to, we're not afraid to. So you're going to see going into 2019, again, we've discontinued those 5 variegated boards. We're going to call the collection itself, those 5 solid colored boards, we're going to call that the Perspective line. And some cool tweaks to that a little bit going into the year. Nothing you'd see on the surface, but some more, I think, selling points for us, going even higher density. Underfoot is going to be a great feeling board. 16 on center, a petite guy like me jump up and down on that thing, and it's a solid deck board and some attractive price points. Again, I think you'll see that most in that Michigan and Mid-Atlantic to Northeast markets is where that change will affect most of the customers.
Great.
Yeah, that mid-price point, we talked about that on an earlier podcast about how the boards that are set in that mid-price point are always kind of up against it, right? You're going into a composite that is an entry level so that you can have the reduced maintenance, lower maintenance board, or you have enough money to buy the board you want, which is often a more expensive, Serenity board, if you will, right? So we talked about that on an earlier podcast, that mid ones always sort of, not always struggle, but it's a harder price to hit for sure. So
it's tough when you're not that cheap and you're not that good looking,
Yeah,
it's
Tell me
an odd
about
spot.
it.
right?
It's like the girl at the end of the night at the bar, right?
That's right. Well, Mark, it's been snowing since we started talking over an hour ago, and the door to our igloo is just about sealed shut here.
Fantastic. It's been a great time, guys. I'm flattered you asked. And
we actually had requests.
Keep doing a great thing.
We threw out a feeler there to see if anybody had people they wanted to hear from, and your name came up. So we thought, what a great idea. Let's bring Mark on here. Now, if anybody listening wants to follow along on Mark's Instagram, his handle is Mark_Fisher_Wolf. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect. And if you want to follow the company he works for, it's just Wolf Home Products. No spaces, no dots, no nothing. And so a couple of great accounts to follow along. Wolf makes some great looking products, some good quality products. And I can attest to our earlier conversation halfway through about your level of service and that you guys always step up. We've had very few minor issues, next to nothing with you guys, but the few little things that came up, you guys are always quick to respond. Made it easy, made it enjoyable, and to your point, you just let's fix the problem and figure out later, and we can definitely attest to that. So thanks so
Do the
much
right
for
thing. Have fun doing it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. That's a good testament to live by. So thanks so much for taking time out of your busy day here, Mark, to spend with us and our podcast listeners. And this will be a great one for everybody to listen to. So until next week,
Thanks, Mark.
we will see everybody again.
Thanks, guys.